You're listening to Vaquero News. Good morning, Vaqueros. It is 9 a.m. Monday, November 2nd, 2020, and welcome to this week's newscast. I am Victor Ramirez, and we hope you had a safe and restful weekend. Starting off the newscast, reporter Justin Elizalde tells us about the early voting turnouts for Cameron and Hidalgo counties.
As early voting polling locations across the Rio Grande Valley closed last Friday, the turnout had already surpassed the 2016 general election. An unofficial 86,901 eligible voters in Cameron County cast their ballots at the close of early voting, a 41.35% increase from 2016 general election. Hidalgo County had an unofficial 171,369 early votes cast by Friday, a 29.43% increase. Hidalgo County Election Administrator Yvonne Ramon says she believes the reason for the increase is voters are more informed.
I do believe that the voters are more aware of how important a vote is. Your vote does count because 1 becomes 2 and 2 becomes 3. And 3 becomes 3 million.
Ramon also stated Governor Greg Abbott's proclamation on July 27th, allowing for 6 additional days in the early voting period to accommodate for COVID-19 restrictions, allowed for more people to cast their ballots. Mail-in balloting also increased as the coronavirus pandemic continues to affect the Rio Grande Valley. Cameron County Elections Administrator Remy Garza believes that there will be an even larger surge for mail-in ballots this election, stating over 8,000 ballots have been mailed back in the county. Mail-in ballots do not become official until they are verified by an early voting ballot board, made up of members of both major political parties. Garza explains how the board makes the vote official.
It's their responsibility to review the applications and the return ballots in order to determine whether they're going to be accepted.
According to Garza, the board determines if the signature was signed by someone else rather than the applicant who requested the mail-in ballot. He adds that even when they determine it may not be a match, they have the ability to research if the person has previously submitted a mail-in ballot and can match the handwriting to those submissions. Election Day will be tomorrow, November 3rd. To find your polling location, visit votetexas.org. For Vaquero News, I'm Justin Elizalde.
UTRGV concluded its investigation of an incident regarding a political science lecture. The investigation of UTRGV political science lecturer Michael Delort, who made controversial comments in a U.S. public policy class live streamed towards students, has concluded. That's according to a university official familiar with the situation. The class incident was recorded and shared on social media on September 24th. As reported by student media on September 25th, screenshots from Delort's now deactivated Twitter account at Safely Anonym also circulated on social media, prompting students to raise their concerns. Associate Vice President for University Marketing Communications, Patrick Gonzalez, confirms the account was in fact Delort's. Political science senior Leo Moody Garza was in the livestream class when Delort's comments were made towards him.
My view of this professor has changed. As a result of everything that happened publicly, his Twitter was publicly outed, and his Twitter was pretty disgusting.
Gonzalez says the university concluded the investigation and came to a decision during the week of October 19th.
The incident was investigated, and upon the conclusion of the investigation, an appropriate action was determined and taken with the faculty member. It's also important to note that all students who filed a formal complaint have also received a response regarding the conclusion of the investigation.
Political Science Department Chair Clyde Barrow says he cannot share the final results of the investigation because he is prohibited by state law from sharing that information.
All I can really tell you is that we have followed the established university process for investigating these types of incidents. A report has been completed and a final decision has been made.
According to Gonzalez, Delort is still teaching at UTRGV. Moody Garza explains how the format of the class has changed.
We don't have in-person live streaming sessions anymore. He just records his lecture, uploads it, and we'll absorb it when we can and take the tests.
For the complete story, visit utrgvradio.com. Alejandra Ñañez, Verilu Infante, and Victor Ramirez contributed to this report. For Vaquero News, I'm Victor Ramirez. Reporter Rodolfo Alvarado tells us about a K-9 officer retiring from the force and spoke with his handler about the next step for them.
After 9 years of service and duty in the UTRGV Police Department, K-9 Officer Odin is finally going into a well-deserved retirement, and his fellow officers made sure to give him an equally deserved send-off. Odin was one of the 3 K-9 units part of the UTRGV Police Department for both the Edinburgh and Brownsville campuses. He specialized in narcotic detection and had been on campus since 2011 with legacy institution University of Texas Pan American. According to Assistant Chief of Police Vance Lusser, the decision to retire Odin was made due to the development of arthritis that comes with the dog's age.
Once we saw that the arthritis was starting to set in, we decided that it's time to retire him before we get to that point of chronic pain.
Odin was given a retirement ceremony on October 21st, in which he was officially adopted by his handler, Sergeant Molly Ralph. The ceremony also acted as a goodbye to Ralph, as she and Odin will be moving to San Antonio. Together, they will continue their journey there, while Ralph will continue her work as a police officer at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and Odin will now get to adjust to his new civilian life. Ralph elaborates on her experience as Odin's handler.
It's changed everything, I would say. I'll never forget my time in K-9. It's been a fantastic experience.
Ralph also went on to reminisce about the different memories she had with Odin.
He was kind of a go big or go home kind of guy. So if I tapped up on a counter, a lot of times, especially when he was younger, he would jump all the way up on top of the counter instead of just taking a little step.
Both Odin and Ralph were well known in the Edinburgh community due to the many times they were visited schools and events to inform them of the K-9 officers in operations. Although Ralph and Odin will be leaving the Rio Grande Valley, they both will be remembered for the time they spent on the force. According to a Facebook post made by the UTRGV Police Department, Odin was the most well-known officer in the force, which shows just how special he was. This is Rodolfo Alvarado for Vaquero News.
In case you missed it, Democratic Vice Presidential candidate Kamala Harris visited the Rio Grande Valley last Friday. Justin Elizalde spoke with demonstrators who supported and opposed the visit of Harris.
Political supporters of both sides of the spectrum converged on UTRGV's Edinburgh campus Friday afternoon in response to Democratic Vice Presidential candidate Kamala Harris's visit to the Rio Grande Valley. Flags, signs, and chants were loud and clear as crowds of supporters for Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and President Donald Trump demonstrated less than 900 feet away from where Harris was set to speak. The senator's visit to the Rio Grande Valley was one of 3 last-minute campaign stops in Texas. Harris was also scheduled to appear in Fort Worth and Houston. Palmhurst resident Mita Rodriguez had been waiting in her car since noon as the first person in line for the drive-in rally for her chance to see Harris.
We wanted to be close by and be able to see Camila and see what she has to tell us.
A small distance down was McAllen resident Rebecca San Miguel, who responded to why she believes there has been an increase in early voter turnout.
I think people want change, to be very honest with you. I think what we have right now as far as our administration up in the White House, I don't want to talk anything bad or be that anti-person, but I think people are really looking for change, for the United States.
Edinburgh resident Daniel Trevino was parked with a Trump flag waving from the bed of his Dodge pickup at the event. He says people either love or hate the president, which he says becomes an issue.
This election, probably more than any other, it's very divisive. I mean, you either love Trump or you hate him. The problem comes into, there's not a lot of people that love Biden, they just hate Trump. The people that love Trump, especially down here in the Valley, the Latinos, the black people, all over the United States, they're not afraid to admit that they're changing sides.
In a live video posted to Harris's Twitter, the senator spoke to voters on issues she believes are at stake in the election. She closed the event by telling attendees they would be a part of history.
We will tell them that we elected Joe Biden, President of the United States.
To watch the full campaign event, visit Kamala Harris's Twitter. For Vaquero News, I'm Justin Elizalde.
And McClain goes up and throws down a monster dunk. That fires up the UTRGV Fieldhouse.
And now time for Vaquero Sports.
Sports reporter Luis Rubio tells us about the WAC's announcement on conference starts dates for basketball and fall sports.
The Western Athletic Conference announced its updated conference schedule for men and women's basketball, among other athletic programs, in a news release last Monday. The new updated schedules for basketball includes back-to-back doubleheaders, as well as the start date for the conference season on January 7th, and the WAC tournament from March 10th through the 13th in Las Vegas. During the 9-week conference season, each team will receive one bye week. UTRGV UTRGV Vice President and Director of Athletics Chase Kong, explains that the WAC decided on back-to-backs to minimize travel and COVID-19 risk during the season.
As you look at the way the conference basketball season is put together, being able to go to one community, be able to drive in or fly in and fly out, to mitigate exposure, to not have to go through multiple airports and multiple destinations and locations over a weekend, all of that was part of the rationale that led us to the schedule that we have.
For UTRGV women's basketball head coach Lane Lord, having a set start date provides much needed clarity and excitement for the upcoming season. In addition, Coach Lord is pleased with his team's home slate as they will be facing 3 out of the 4 teams picked to finish top 3 in the WAC preseason coaches poll.
As far as the home slate goes, I couldn't be more happier with our draw. We got New Mexico State at home for 2 games. We got Utah Valley at home for 2 games. And we got California Baptist at home for 2 games, along with Chicago State.
For a complete schedule, visit goutrgv.com. With the updated schedule providing a sense of normalcy for players, coaches, and staff, they are expected to follow NCAA and WAC COVID-19 travel protocols. Kong explains that if games are canceled due to COVID-19 or other factors, lost games will not be rescheduled or made up.
It would be very difficult to be able to find that mutual open dates, and since those vary, institution by institution, program by program. So we'll continue to have those discussions at the conference level, but I think we'll find that it would be very difficult to make those games up.
The WAC news release also announced the conference season start dates for volleyball, men's soccer, and women's soccer. For Vaquero Radio, I'm Luis Rubio.
And now for this week's weather report. Today in Brownsville, partly sunny with a high near of 77 degrees with northeast winds of 8 to 14 miles per hour. Edinburgh will be sunny today with high near of 78 degrees. Throughout the week, Edinburgh will have sunny and mostly clear skies. As well as for Brownsville, Tuesday through Thursday, sunny and mostly clear skies. But on Friday, Brownsville should expect a 20% chance of showers. That's it for your weekly weather report. We will see y'all here next week.
And now for this week's event calendar.
Last Friday was the last day of early voting. For those who have not voted yet, there is still one last opportunity to do so on Tuesday, Election Day. The UTRGV Edinburgh campus will have an Election Day site in the ballroom. To find an Election Day polling site, visit Hidalgo or Cameron County Elections Department's website. Visit votetexas.gov on what to take to the voting polling sites. Campus Activities Board, along with the Student Union, will host virtual DIY Day of the Dead starting at 4 p.m. today. The event will consist of hands-on activities such as face painting, ceramic skull paintings, and DIY Minnie Mouse concha ears. Visit the link to sign up or for more details. And that's it for today's newscast. If you have any story ideas, send us an email to radio@utrgv.edu. Vaquero Radio is also mobile with the Radio FX app, available for Android and Apple. Also, follow us on our social media platforms and visit our website for updates and much more. We will see you next Monday at 9 a.m. here on Vaquero Radio.
This has been Vaquero News.